Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets Podcast Pioneer, with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and RemarkableResults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio and another Town Hall Academy. Thank you so much for being here. If you weren't here, we wouldn't be doing this. It is just great to have. We're going to have the people from Promotive on. Did you read that on my shirt? I rarely do this. The next shirt in the pile that I'm going to wear, it just so happens, I think the sun and the moon were aligned. We're going to talk about recruiting. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff that has to do with finding great people. And since we are here on the Academy, let's pay homage to our great sponsors. For over 30 years, NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. We'll prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. Find NAPA Trax on the web at NAPATRACS.com. And auto shop owners, at the end of the day, relish in the satisfaction of seeing your business thrive, your team motivated, and your customers leaving with a smile. Talk to Coach Chris at AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching at autoshopcoaching.com. And are you ready to optimize training with today's class? Well, in just 5 minutes daily, boost knowledge, retention, and improve team performance. Even do some gamification. Start seeing results today. Join your peers at todaysclass.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Hey, and one more time, and I've been telling you a lot about this lately, about the Breaks for Breast program, October of this year, breaksforbreasts.com. Look for a really great episode on how to $1.8 million raised so far for a vaccine research for triple negative breast cancer out of the Cleveland Clinic, breaksforbreast.com. Wait for the how-to video. Hey, I'm with two great friends, Joelle Pollock and Lisa Coyle from Promotive, both co-founders. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Carm. How's it going?
I'm great. Look at major concerns with techs moving to different shops, red flags in resumes, questions to ask shop owners, questions to ask candidates. You guys are experts at this, and you got a great company that helps shop owners find great technicians and fit them in the right culture. What do you find? I mean, are the red flags in resumes some of the most important things you find when you get ready to look over a technician's resume? Obviously, you're going to work for a shop, but you're also doing the recruitment through all kinds of resources to find good talent. And before you submit them to a shop, are you working with a technician to help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our recruiters and account managers. So our account managers are really focused on working with the shops. It's their point person, and the recruiters focus on building the relationships, screening, vetting, identifying those red flags on the recruiting side. Basically, our process is we have to do an intake call with a shop before we start recruiting, because an A tech to one shop, service advisor, whatever the role is, means something completely different to everybody. So we need to really understand what our specific customer shop is looking from a personality standpoint, from career advancement, from pay, culture, all of those things. And what our recruiters do is take that. We hit on all of our different avenues. I'm sure we'll touch on that later, but it's really all about matching the right technician or service advisor with the right shop. And those red flags definitely do come into play based on that intake call. If there's a hard no and a shop tells us that up front, we're obviously not going to submit whatever that hard no is to that shop.
Okay, so the hard no is your account manager's telling the technician, we really don't have a spot for you. Are you telling that technician that?
No. So as we're growing, we are building our pipelines in different areas. So we're working with about almost 200 shops across the country, and we're in like 32 or 33 different states. So the more outreach on these passive candidates we're doing as well, and even the inbounds, we're talking to hundreds and thousands of technicians. And what happens is, in an ideal situation, we have a shop in that market and that candidate's the right fit. Now, let's say we have a great candidate, but it's not a right fit for that shop. We may
Got
have
it.
another shop in the area, or we keep them warm until we bring on the right opportunity for that technician. So it's not
What is
about just getting the warm body in there, the right
Okay,
person.
both of you, tell me what that fit is kind of like and why there would be a red flag on a fit.
I mean, a simple red flag is job hopping. We do look at that. So if somebody hasn't maintained a job for more than 6 months in the last 3 or 4 years, that's a big issue, right? Like we don't want to see people jumping from job to job. And I would say that it's not just applicable to automotive shops and technicians. It's applicable to humans in general. I don't personally hire people at Promotive or other companies I'm a part of that job hop. It usually means they're not happy or they're not consistent. Maybe they're not reliable. Maybe they're not good at the job, whatever the case is. So that's one red flag. But I think what Joelle was referencing too is, maybe there's a shop looking specifically for somebody that has all their ASE certifications and they have 5 years of Euro experience. And we get an applicant that has their ASE certifications, but they've only worked on domestic cars. It's not a red flag. It's just not the perfect fit.
Okay, it's not a total qualify.
Correct.
Yep.
Exactly. But that wouldn't be a red flag. They could be a great candidate for somewhere else.
Absolutely, for another client
Exactly.
within that market. Do you bring on clients in the same market, in the same zip code, in the same, say, metro?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. We have pockets across the country where, we may have one shop, two shops, 7 shops. And what we found is it's actually a good thing when we have a lot of shops in one area. I get that question all the time when I'm talking with shops and they say, hey, like, what if there's a shop down the road? Like, who do you send the candidate to? And it goes back to what we're just talking about. If it's truly apples to apples, the culture similar, the pay similar, the career advancements, the opportunities, training, all of that seems like a good fit for this candidate, we'll send them to both shops. And then it's up to the shop and the candidate to decide, is it the right fit? But a lot of times it's not apples to apples. Maybe one shop's pay is flat rate and the other shop's pay is some hybrid model. And the tech really isn't interested in flat rate. Or maybe the pays $10,000 more. Maybe there's no benefits at one shop, but there's benefits, and that's really important to this candidate. So we dive deep into all those different areas before we, make the decision. Do we send it to one shop or do we send it to both shops?
Your recruiters are working with these candidates saying, listen, we've looked over your resume, and they start asking them questions because nowhere on a resume does it say, I need this kind of benefit. I need paid training. I'm looking for a retirement package. That is after you look over the resume because that's where you're looking to find that culture fit.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And a lot of times, Carm, the resumes aren't even updated. So we'll help the candidates update their resumes. Sometimes they don't even have a resume. So we'll work with them if they need help there.
Oh, that's a great point. How many don't have resumes? What percent?
Yeah, the ones that are applying through Indeed or ZipRecruiter or something like that, they all have something. It's something basic. It's the ones that we're doing proactive outreach to. So they're not looking for jobs. They're currently at the dealership or wherever for the last 5 or 6 years. Or maybe the data we have says that they're at Ford for the last 9 years. And you talk to them, and they're like, oh no, like I left Ford 3 years ago, but they never updated their resume online or their LinkedIn. Those are the ones that we're really helping build a resume because they should have one in general. Another one is like our Facebook ads that we're doing. I always say they're the people that aren't necessarily unhappy, but they're not happy in their roles. So they're testing the water to see like what else is out there. And they don't have resumes either. And we're helping them build their resume, but at the same time, we're not encouraging them to go put them on Indeed because we don't want them to go out of our network. We want them to stay with us. So we're helping them build it and then they have the resume with us. And in general, we're teaching them at the same time, like they're not putting all their true credentials and what they've done on their resume. So we're giving them advice. And an example that in the sales world, every salesperson would put on their resume if they're looking for a job today to go work, at Google or Salesforce or whatever, they would put their CRM experience, right? They would say, I have Salesforce experience, I have HubSpot experience, I've used Zendesk for ticketing, RingCentral for phones, whatever. Our technicians aren't putting any of their software skills. So you mentioned NAPA tracks in your ad, for example, like If somebody worked with NAPA tracks, they should put NAPA tracks on their
Sure.
resume. Where do they do their parts ordering? Like that kind of stuff they're
Yeah.
not doing at all. They're just saying, hey, I've been at Joe's Auto Repair Shop from 2020 to 2024 and I was the lead technician. That's about it, right? They're not putting all the things they've actually accomplished. They're not putting their flagged hours. They're not putting like their data, and we're trying to teach them to do that.
Got it. Lisa Coyle, Joelle Pollock, Promotive, GoPromotive.com. Oh, by the way, thank you so much for sponsoring Hunt's show. Everyone loves to listen to Hunt, all about the numbers, business by the numbers with Hunt Demarest. So we sure appreciate your commitment to that. But I just got a golden nugget from you, Lisa. The golden nugget is all the software that I use, get it on the resume. Is there a spot on the resume that kind of says, I know these software, I use these tools, these software tools. I've worked with General Motors and Chrysler and this kind of scope. Do they do that, or are they just doing name, rank, and serial number?
They're not doing that. That's the thing. And we're trying to teach them to do that. And they should. I mean, it's not just the software either. It's what scanning tools have they used before? Like there's all sorts of things that they should be putting on there to give themselves not just the credibility, but it could be the differentiator between hiring somebody that, going back to the example earlier of 5 years of Euro experience and must be an ASE, certified tech. Well, maybe the shop's willing to bend on that 5 years of Euro to go to 2 years if they also have that NAPA tracks experience because the shop uses NAPA tracks.
Got it.
It's more of like a, Match.com.
It's a fit. It's a little bit better fit. Yeah. I got a great thought and a question for both of you, because I think about the number of technicians that are out there. I don't know if this is an official recruitment word, but they're stuck, right? They're really talented. They're so committed to go to training, but they just don't reach to get it. The owner doesn't pay for them. They're stuck. It's the best word I could use. They're not in social media. How do you, as recruiters, go out and look for some of the best talent that we have? It's hidden talent. Is there a special way? And if there is a special way, what percentage of placements are you finding that's coming from hidden talent?
Those passive candidates that Lisa was talking about, those are typically the more loyal ones, right? And as she mentioned, like I think, it's important to note too, like we're working the active candidates, the ones that are actively applying and probably job hopping around, not always the case though, but we have our tools and lists and resources, and we have a database in our applicant tracking system where we can really hone in on a specific market, certain mile radius, and type in, if it's a shop foreman, a service advisor, technician. And sometimes we get more info than others, and we can see their work experience, where they're currently working, how long they've been there, contact info, things like that. So that's a hit list for our recruiters to reach out to and get them on the phone, right? Sometimes you get them on the phone and you could do the pre-screen and the full process. Sometimes it's you're scheduling the call. But it's also important to know if somebody's happy when we get them on the phone where they're at, like we still want to build that relationship for maybe when the time comes and they're not happy, but we're not trying to pull people from shops or dealerships that are truly happy where they're at. Right now, what we're doing is retaining the talent in the industry. Because if somebody's looking to leave or interested in leaving, the reality is they're going to leave with or without us. So if we can at least place them with the right independent shop and keep them in the industry, it's a step in the right direction, right? Then there's the longer term play of bringing in the young adults and students. So those passive candidates, and it takes work, it takes time. It takes time from even the active candidates, but especially the passive candidates. And we have text message campaigns to keep them warm. I like to say we're building our bench across the country and keeping them warm. The other piece, let's say when we do place a passive candidate in a shop, we have client aftercare and candidate aftercare. So once we make a placement, we don't move on. We're truly partnering with shops and the candidate. So day one, week one, the recruiter's checking in with the technician, the account manager's checking in with the shop, same in the first 30, 60, 90 days. So if we are starting to hear some of those concerns on one side or the other, our goal is to try and bridge that gap and get ahead of it before the tech just quits or the shop fires them.
I got to tell you, you just said something that really moved me about the word keeping them in the industry. And if I could think about the recruitment industry that we have in this beloved service aftermarket, just for the sake of you all communicating and bridging and building relationships, I don't think we ever thought of the value that companies like yours can do to keep people engaged. It's a big takeaway.
And it's something that's actually like really fun to talk about when you get the passive candidates in particular on the phone. The first line, once you call them and you say like, hey, is this Carm? And they are like, yeah, who's this? And I'm like, this is Lisa with Promotive. Real quick, we focus on the automotive shop industry and work exclusively looking for technicians. Are you still a technician? That question actually opens up a great conversation about the industry with them, and they love talking about it. And one thing that we tell them is like, if you're not in the industry, which we get tons of those on the phone, Carm, like one guy left being a master tech and he manages 5 Chick-fil-A stores. I can tell you one we talked to there. Another one is an elevator repair person. Another one is a corrections officer. I'm actually trying to get them to come back into the industry. Great. And inform them that there's roles they can do that aren't necessarily turning wrenches. And I think one thing that we can do for the industry together is come up with like, what are those roles that someone can do that, their service advising experience or their technician experience can be applied to something that's not breaking their bodies, for example, because there's a lot that they would be valuable to many companies. So we have fun conversations on that too.
That's a great point about breaking bodies. But Joelle, I think just a few moments ago, you said something about young people, and I think of the word generations, and how do we bring our younger generations up and in, and how do we keep some of our older, and it's 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever the number is, since we are so tight on great talent, taking an individual who thinks that he's only got 10 years left and then bring him into an organization that just rebirths him. It's what a joy for you to make a placement like that.
Well, I hope you don't really think 40 is old, Carm, but because 40 is
No,
not
I don't.
old.
I think it's
Okay?
very, 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 very young.
Good. I think your line of rebirth is a good one too, or people starting a new job or, just having change gives energy. And I think change is good in a lot of ways. And we don't want people to be complacent, but I'd say to shops, whoever's listening on this, like, make sure those 40, 50, 60-year-old young people, have career growth. That's something that we talk about a lot. Some people might be happy in their role. And to Joelle's point, we're not just trying to like move them from one happy place to another happy place. Like if they're happy, we want to, it's good that they stay. But at the same time, they're about to be unhappy if they don't have growth. So a lot of them are looking to be, the shop foreman, the shop managers. So many technicians that we talk to want to be service advisors, or they think about it. So I would encourage shops to tell their employees, their technicians in particular, to shine be the star in the role you're in and moonlight in the role you want, and give them opportunities to try other things, because they are looking to see what options they have as they do age.
I love shine and moonlight.
Yeah, I got that from Michelle Fisher, the former CEO of Velo. So that was a good line for her.
I love that, shine and moonlight. Let's talk about that. Let's go depth a little bit. So here I am, a technology specialist. And you know what? I'm loving what I'm doing, but I really want something different. And I'm looking at this organization that I work for. It's growing. There's stuff going on, and we're vibrant. I really want to work on that counter. How do I moonlight? What do I do? Do I pick up a few hours a day?
I was just actually reading an article. It might have been in a Wall Street Journal that Synchrony, who's obviously a big player and partner to many of us in the industry, is allowing their employees to do that. So I'll find that and send it over to you. But they're allowing like 3-month roles to give their employees change of scenery, and it prevents them from leaving and is not necessarily a like stay on bonus. But I would just say that the shops need to have these growth conversations with their employees, see what they want to do. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, let's take a tech and have them be a service advisor for 3 months. Because I get that as a business owner, that would be distracting, right? You're not just trying to do put somebody in a 3-month role, but maybe like they're just getting complacent doing the same type of job and they just want to do another type of job. And it could just be like, oh, why don't we have you shadow this person, and the next one that comes in, you get to go do this.
I think too, even thinking, outside, like maybe there's only so many roles within a shop, right? Maybe you don't need a shop manager, you have a service advisor, whatever the case may be. But especially with ADAS and emerging technology and EVs and all that, like obviously you need the space in the shop to perform the work and whatnot. But we just made a placement the other day in Virginia, and it was actually this week, and great tech, A level, right? He's going to bring a new element to that shop because she's been wanting to get into EV, ADAS, all the advanced technology, right? And he's going to bring that, and he's going to take that on and run it and continue training and whatnot. So there's also other elements and roles that can be created as the industry is continuing to expand and vehicles are becoming more complex and et cetera.
Hey, let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing tracks to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, will be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NAPATrax, that's NAPATRACS.com. In the world of auto repair, every shop has its unique rhythm and challenges. At AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, they understand that one size does not fit all. That's why we offer personalized business coaching, tailoring our advice to meet your shop's specific needs. Transform your operations with strategies and tools to streamline your workflow, reduce waste, and skyrocket productivity. And when it comes to the numbers, we've got you covered. Our financial management guidance helps you master your finances from cash flow to profit margins, ensuring your revenue grows stronger. Every day, AutoFix Auto Shop Coaching, empowering your shop to achieve more. Visit us at autoshopcoaching.com. Transform your team with today's class, where automotive training is easy, quick, and fun. Just 5 minutes a day on our app can eliminate hours of looking up forgotten information later. It's perfect for technicians, advisors, and managers alike. Keep critical knowledge fresh and top of mind, ensuring your team operates at peak efficiency. Today's class is impactful, accessible from anywhere, and a bit of fun too, and we're not talking about after-hours pizza either. For training that gets results, turn to todaysclass.com.
So
just a crazy idea that's floating through my head about how I could find the old try it thing. Well, to your point, you just can't take a technology specialist out of the bays because you've got a very critical role and say, just try it for 3 months. Interesting concept. But if someone came to me, and I guess the encouragement for this episode is that we throw millions of ideas up into the air and hopefully a few land in people's heads or on their to-do lists. And one of them is, I guess I just mentioned it, for a few hours a week or a day by saying, listen, we're going to schedule this particular mechanical specialist or technology specialist. We're going to schedule them a little lighter on Tuesdays and Thursdays because they're going to come up and shadow you on the counter. So let's be sure that we're not scheduling them. Just because someone sees something from a distance doesn't mean that's what they want. And it could make them better at the current job that they think they want to leave at.
Yeah. And it makes them appreciate what the person at the counter is doing. So you get that intangible win because they're like, oh my gosh, like that is a hard job. Like they have to deal with these unhappy people or, like they're having to make all these phone calls, whatever the case is. So they do gain an appreciation of what the person at the counter is doing. And they might realize, I don't want to do this. And then they are like, heck yeah, I'm going to go crush it in the role I'm in right now and be the best technology specialist I possibly can be. So sometimes, like, just allowing people to see what they don't want to be or do is also a win.
Help me understand the interview process, Lisa, Joelle. If I am a recruiter with the company and I'm working with a technician and I say, do I basically say, what kind of questions are you ready to ask of the owner or whoever's doing the interview? Are you coaching them in that department?
Yeah. So on the technician recruiter side, we obviously want to figure out why are they looking to leave, what type of culture are they looking for, what scan tools have they have experience with, all the systems, processes, obviously compensation, where are they looking to be, where do they need to be, what are their goals? Service advisors, obviously there's different questions based on the role, but we dive deep and really what are they looking for, what do they want? From there, we submit all that to our shops and we give them, a summary, all the detailed questions that were answered. And we say, we think they're a good fit because of these reasons. We schedule the interview, we get them in. So once that interview is scheduled, our recruiters are working with the candidates and our shop and our account managers are working with our shops to make sure that they are prepared with questions. Our
So you're
recruiter,
you're blending, you're trying to blend that experience.
yeah, for example, so like Kelly, who heads up our recruiting too, and when she's talking with candidates, sometimes there's after hour interviews, but like it's really ideal for a candidate. She encourages like, hey, when you're in there during business hours, just take a look at the shop. Look at the current technicians, the current staff, how are they getting along? Is the shop busy? Really make sure like these are some of the things from a technician side or service advisor side to look at. And then obviously the account managers are working with the shops to provide all the details that we have on the candidate. Some shops want a little bit more guidance and assistance on questions. And then we lean on a lot of our customers too and shops to dive even deeper on the technical side, right? There's a ton of different ways to interview and question on the technical side, but that's why the shops do the final interview, right? If they want to dive deeper into DIA or whatever the case may be.
Here's my thought. I'm a technician. I've been in the industry 10 years and I'm curious. I don't know what's out there. I bump into Promotive. I'm hanging out with you guys. You've kind of helped me refine my resume. But here's my butt question. Do you send me a PDF document that says these are things you will want to know from your prospective new employer? Because I may go into an interview and sit on my butt not knowing what questions to ask, even though you've coached me and helped me with my resume. Just because it's on the resume or I've heard a little bit about the shop doesn't mean that I need to hear it myself. I need to hear about training. I need to hear who's paying for it. I need to hear about specialty tools. Do you help guide that?
Yeah, obviously a brand new shop, if we took them on today, we learn each other, right? That's what a relationship is. And maybe the first submittal we make, we're checking 8 out of the 10 boxes and we get that feedback and we know, okay, what did we miss and what do we have to do for the next one? That intake call where we get all those details. And then obviously through placements and working together, we will guide the candidate based on those examples that you
Okay.
just mentioned. So that's why that intake call and those checkpoints with account managers and just communicating. It's communicating where are we doing well, where are we missing. We're coaching the shops and the candidates on both sides.
It's the same for the owner. I haven't really had the need or how about this? Every time I seem to hire somebody, they last about 4 or 5 months. And you say, "Well, are you hiring for intelligence? Are you hiring for culture?" I mean, all that, right?
Yeah.
But so many owners that have not done a great job who feel they need to hire a recruiter like Promotive, they almost need to be coached, don't they?
Yeah, we're continuing to learn something new every single day, right? I mean, every shop runs and operates a little bit differently. And I would say I actually jotted down a couple points here I wanted to make sure I mentioned on the shop side. But one thing that's important to candidates, obviously, culture, career advancement, Lisa touched on, compensation, but not just compensation. Everyone wants to make as much money as they possibly can, right? But there really is, we all know there's peaks and valleys, slow seasons. And I'm not here to say what's the right way, what's the wrong way. There's a ton of different comp plans out there. But I think it's important to be willing to have the conversation for the right candidate to maybe do a hybrid model, or maybe going from hourly to flat rate, and just being open to have the conversations. But then also, what comes up every single day on almost every call is the shop busy enough? And what happens when they're not, right? So some shops will do a guarantee. I think it's important to figure out what works for each owner's business, what they're able to do, what their numbers are, and work with these technicians and service advisors wherever they can, because that's when techs are leaving. That's when they're going to a different shop, different dealership, is because it is slower. And if they're on flat rate, they're not making money and they have bills to pay, mouths to feed. That's definitely a big topic.
I have to tell you, just I think nailed something critically important, and that is what kind of pay programs and what do you do if we're not busy, especially if I'm going into a flat rate company? Do they have a guarantee? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that.
Yep.
What are you both finding are the stronger pay programs in the industry?
I would say that I have mixed emotions, right? Flat rate's great, and we all know you can make a lot of money on it when, obviously with you got to be trained, no comebacks, the shop's busy and you're just turning and burning, right? But and it also, I see from a shop owner's perspective, right? You're kind of putting your money where your mouth is, and it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm able to turn 40, 50, 60 hours a week. But I'd say that hybrid type model, right? So you've kind of got your base hourly, and then based on hours turned, you can make more. But we've seen some crazy complex comp plans, pay plans, and like, keep it simple. We don't need tiers going up by pennies. We don't need 35 different tiers. Like, you don't want to have to stand on your head and pull out calculators and do all these count with your toes to figure out how much you're going to make today. I'd say
It's
that
almost
hybrid
like
model.
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big topic. And again,
That's
there's pros to each version, how you look at it. So,
keep
it's
Yeah,
it simple.
yeah.
I cannot emphasize that enough. Again, not just in our industry, in every industry. Every employee should be able to explain in 20 to 30 seconds to their spouse, their parents, whoever, their friend, how much money they made in a week or a month and what their goal is for that week or that month or whatever the case is. If you cannot explain your compensation plan to your best friend, your dad, your partner, whoever, it is not a good compensation plan. They should know where they're at any given time. And I'm mind blown, Carm, how many of these guys, like that it's mainly men we're talking to, right, have no clue how much they're really making. They'll revert back to their W-2 sometimes, especially during tax season. They're like, well, I actually have my W-2, but they can't really explain it. They don't know how many hours they're flagging, it like, especially if they're on a guarantee. Shop owners need to tell them their productivity. So many of these people, the dealerships aren't telling them. They have no idea how many hours they're truly flagging. And the other thing I'd say on the benefits, people do care about the perks, not just the health benefits. Like it is the PTO. Nobody wants to leave the dealership where they have 4 weeks of PTO because they've been there for 10 years to come back, go to an independent shop that gives them 1 week after 90 days, and then they get 2 weeks after 2 years or whatever the case is. I get it that, we have our current employees on one model and then you're like, oh, do I make an exception for this new guy who's maybe not as good as my number one guy? My number one guy's been here with me for the last 10 years. Like, do what's best for everybody is all I would say. And if you don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies. Like, standard needs to be 3 weeks, in my opinion, of PTO. And you don't give it, 15 days all up front on day one when they start. They can accrue it. But like, there's nothing wrong with making it the policy for everybody, but you're not going to get good talent that's happy where they're at, or they're like not unhappy, right? To leave a comfortable situation to go to the unknown and get less time with their families. Like, that's something so simple that I think we need to get better at.
Joelle, Lisa, I think you just nailed something so important. And let's make a point of this. There's old attitudes out there that says we only give 2 weeks vacation. We don't even call it PTO, blah, blah, blah. You can't take it in chunks. It only has to be like this. It's like, stop the insanity. We have a completely different world. We have different needs in our families, in our lifestyles today. And so be creative. And I'm sure you guys are helping an awful lot of shop owners to recognize that. And when I was thinking about The PTO from the dealership, to your point, Lisa, you said, well, I get 4 weeks there and I really don't want to leave because they only give me. How about my policy is I'll give PTO, I'll match PTO from wherever you're coming from up to 4 weeks. Honorable offer, right? And
Mhm.
my people, they're earning 3.5, wherever they are. It's not like somebody's going to come in and says, whoa, you sold a bank ago. Well, I didn't get that. Make
Yeah.
it happen. Just
Yeah.
go to your people and say, listen, I'm going to give you a couple of extra days of PTO this year just so that we're in balance. There's nothing wrong with this. If you're
Yeah.
running a great company, the money's there.
And they stay then. That's like a perk that they would get, and it's kind of like a stay-on bonus. Like, and that's where I think, again, as a business owner, I've owned business for the last 13, 14 years. Like, it's hard because you're like, how am I going to do this? Like, we can't afford to do it. But what you really can't afford is losing that number one person.
Oh,
Like, so just go do what's right and put yourself in the person that you're trying to hire's shoes. And imagine going to your wife and say, hey, I'm losing these great benefits and PTO, but I really believe in this company. Like, I think it's going to be great. And the wife's going to be like, what are you doing? Like, make
yeah.
it easy for the wife to say yes too,
Yeah.
because a career change
Yeah.
is a life move, and you need to make sure the whole family's on board.
You're right about the spouse. The spouse is going to look at the hard facts and not necessarily how much fun you're having or where the other things can come to help your career. This is hard. The time
Yeah.
off, the pay, the benefit, these are hard
Yeah.
things that you have to learn how to soften.
Yep.
Did I say
Absolutely.
soften? I meant soften.
Soften. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to note, like somebody told me years ago, like stop looking at my direct competitors as my competition and start looking bigger. So the example I'll give is, I'm one of the co-founders of 360 Payments, and I was looking at, the banks as my competitors, Wells Fargo, Merchant Services, or whoever. And this guy told me, he's like, who your number one competitor in the Bay Area is, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's Google. Like, and I'm like, well, Google doesn't do merchant services. And he's like, no, but Google's offering your employees who you're going after for customer service or for sales support, whatever the case is, they're going after them and they're providing the health benefits, the PTO, the
Yeah.
foosball tables, the kegs, whatever the case is.
Uh-huh.
Like, you need to look at your competition as Google. And it's funny, coming full circle, Google has self-driving cars. I haven't seen any of them lately in the Bay Area, but they're hiring your technicians. The gas and electric companies out here that are part of the union are hiring your
Yeah.
technicians. So we need to start looking
Yeah.
bigger than our direct competitors.
That's a great point. Joelle, I've always said that you are your own competitor and you should look to improve every day by reviewing what your week was like and find out how you can improve so that you can be
Mhm.
always at the top of the heap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then I think last thing to touch on. So obviously, being flexible, being open from pay, from PTO, from benefits, do what it takes if you really feel like it's the right fit. And then the other thing is being transparent, like in anything in life, right? But what I mean by that is, we have some shops that we work with, and they, no matter what level or experienced technician that is starting there, they have their onboarding plan, right? So you need to learn our DVI process and system. You need to be able to change oil within 20, 30 minutes, do a full DVI and change oil, right? Now, some may get there quicker, some may take longer, but that's the stuff that we need to know on the front end when we're doing that intake call to provide to our recruiter so that they're making these experienced techs aware that, hey, your first week or two, like, you may not get the $5,000 tickets and the heavy diag jobs, but like, you need to learn the process and the system. So when the shop's actually talking to the candidates, I would just say, be transparent. Like,
Yeah.
what is that onboarding plan? Have an onboarding plan, have a training plan. And that's where we found a couple times, like, the candidates may not last a week or two because there's no plan. And the shop's looking at it like, well, they're not doing this correctly. And the candidate's like, well, I didn't know that this was the correct way, right? And those are hard ones. And that's where we provide our feedback. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's too late. So have a plan. Make sure you know who's doing the onboarding, the training. Hold them accountable as well as the new hire. So
That's a great point. Ron Popeil was a guy who was on TV all the time, and he had, I think, a kitchen appliance, and he would say, set it and forget it, right? And to your point, you can't do that when you have a new hire.
Yep.
That person, you need to stay as close as you can. There needs to be a welcome committee. There needs to be a walkthrough for maybe 3 or 4 weeks so that individual can find their pace, their home, get accepted by the customer, everybody who works there. Hey, thank you for that. By the way, what about a 4-day work week? People are asking a lot about that.
Yeah, we're working with some shops that have recently implemented it, that are trying to figure out how to implement it. We had a great shop in the Sacramento area that, for a candidate, specifically made it a 4-day work week just for
Okay,
him.
sure.
So being flexible, right? So it seems like it's coming up more, and shops that aren't on it are like, I need to do this, and it's just figuring out how they can make it work.
I'd say on the technician side, because I'll do a lot of the recruiting, in particular to help build the systems. They're not asking for 4-day work weeks, but it sure doesn't hurt to have it in your back pocket. So when we're out there, calling the passive candidates, like it's not something that is the number one selling point. I'd say the number one selling point still is the compensation, right? Like that is money talks, and that's in a lot of roles. And number two, honestly, is probably the culture, which you can argue for the 4-day work week goes into that culture. But yeah, I'd say it doesn't hurt to have. It's a differentiator. But today, the technicians that I've talked to, and Kelly would have way more data, it's not something that the majority are not on a 4-day work week.
Got it.
So it's a nice to have.
How about pay for training? Is that high on the list?
It's up there. We talk about that more than a 4-day work week for sure. And something else higher on the work list, a lot of these candidates have young children. Some of them are single parents. So being flexible with the school schedule to do pick up and drop off. Some of them, like their daycare, they're like, I have to be there. Like I cannot leave my child there, longer than 8 to 5 or 7 to 6. But most of the shops we work with, Carmen, in my opinion, are family people. And going back to you asking us, coaching the candidate, coaching the shop on the process, a lot of times I don't feel like we have to coach the candidate on asking certain questions at the shop, because I feel like we've done our vetting. We're not bringing on any shop that wants to come on board with us. One, of course, if we don't think we can do a good job for that shop, we're not going to bring them on. Our integrity means a lot. But two, if we want to keep people in the industry, as Joelle references constantly, like we can only bring on shops that we think are going to keep people in the industry, right? Like, so they have to have some sort of benefit package. They have to have a shop management software. Usually we're hoping they have a DVI, because those are really what's going to help make the service advisors and the technicians more money and grow. We're doing a lot of that vetting. But yeah, I'd say flexibility of being like putting family first so they can take care of their priorities is a big deal.
You're so right, Lisa. I'll never forget an interview that I did with a shop owner, Mark Roberts, Schertz, Texas. He's got a great company. And he said to me, as he was trying to describe his culture and his family first mentality. And when I said, if Mark can do it, why can't everybody do this? And it was an individual came to him and says, hey, listen, next Monday, my son got picked to go on this tournament for what it was, soccer, what it didn't matter. He says, hey, boss, you think I could go? And he says, you can absolutely go. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen to the company? We're not going to die. We're not going to fall apart. And what happens when we go on vacation? We cover for each other. And the reasons we cover for each other, because we have the right culture, and we'll make it happen. Go, enjoy it, be with your family. What? Ooh, it makes you get goosebumps to think that could be the positive culture that puts people on waiting lists to come to work for you.
The little things make a difference. And if you say you're a family first culture, like be a family first culture. And I would say, I hope Mark in that example is setting the tone too. And he's not missing soccer tournaments or dance recitals, whatever the case is, because they will look up.
He's only working a couple of days a week, so he's figured it out. Right? He's figured it out, right? Okay, how about, is air conditioning on the top of the list?
Air conditioning, it's up there. Yeah, and heat. And Buffalo.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, no, it's up there. It's part of our intake when we do bring on a shop, and part of our sales process. It's not a deal breaker, but there's one tech coming in could pay for that $20,000, $30,000 AC that you need to get installed, right? Like, and then you change the culture right there, showing everybody that you care about them. Yeah, it is up there. It's not something that many of the techs are asking us in their questions about the shops.
They're not asking, but boy, when it does happen, if it happens,
Yeah.
Yep.
and the owner can figure out where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
typically, really good shops have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about being proud as a peacock. I just air conditioned the
There's
shop, and
The sh-
the rest of the world knows about it. I mean, every technician within 50 miles knows about it.
Yeah, and there's an alternative to air conditioning. I'm not cursing. This is what they're actually called, but they're called big ass fans.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like literally that's what they're called. They do a decent job, especially when you have the cross breeze coming in. Yeah, I don't know how much they run for, but I know they're cheaper than air conditioning.
Yeah, well, not being in the South, there's a special name for that. I'm trying to remember. Maybe Tracy remembers. Just someone mentioned it the other day where they put water down that and they blow it out and it cools the air.
Yeah. Yep.
Portico?
Anyway, what? Pardon?
A portico? What?
Yeah, something like that. But I think
eh,
there's a slang word for it for everyone in the
Oh,
South that uses those. What didn't we cover that you wanted to cover? Because this was an incredible episode, man. Just so much stuff thrown up on the table here. Anything else, Lisa, on your list?
Joelle has the physical list written down, but I'd say whether someone signs up with us or not, the importance of professionalism and speed, we call it speed to lead, is a big deal on working with candidates, especially working with us. If somebody works with us, we consider it a partnership, meaning if we say, hey, we just hung up with a candidate today, or right now it's 11 a.m. Pacific time. We type up all of our notes. We get the resume in a nice format. We send it over, and we say they can interview tomorrow. We need someone to look at our email that they're receiving as their number one customer, or our text message, our call, because if we don't like jump on keeping that candidate moving quickly through the process, they could get that next raise at their
Sure.
their company
Yeah.
tomorrow. They could go interview somewhere else. So whether they're working with us or not, I would say the importance of not stringing people along and treating it like your number one customer, and it like is so important. So
But it
yeah.
sounds like to me, we've done episodes on this. You need to keep the process tight. You need to keep the communication strong. You need to keep the transparency there.
Mhm.
You want an honest relationship with the individual. You don't want them to ghosting is an ugly, terrible term that happens. And I'm sure it happens to you guys as well as it does happen to shop owners and even potential technicians that are
Yeah.
trying to apply somewhere and they don't get a reply back.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
ghosting happens everywhere.
Don't lose sleep over $1 an hour, or don't, I hate using double negatives, but don't not hire somebody because of $1 an hour. Like if you really want the person, make it a no-brainer
Yeah.
and just make it simple, and don't look at negotiation as a bad thing. Like if I'm hiring someone, especially if a service advisor is asking for more money, if I'm hiring a salesperson and they don't negotiate with me, I think that's a red flag, right? Like it shows they're entrepreneurial. It shows that
Yeah.
they're going to fight for themselves. Like, don't be upset when somebody negotiates, and don't trip over dollars, pick up pennies. Like, if you just pay them $1 more and make them happy and show them that you want them.
Any top shop operator is going to go out, make the deal, bring on the person, pick up
Yep.
the phone and tell their consultant or coach who's on their team, listen, I have more payroll than I ever possibly had. We are expanding like you told me we had to. We've got to handle more work. What's my new labor rate? And what should my margins be? It's not that difficult to go out. But if you don't do anything about costs that you just spent money on to try to figure it all out. So you're 100% right. We should have talked about if you don't have an individual and you're waiting 6 or 7 months, all the revenue that you lost. We didn't even go there. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that is an important thing that you talk to owners about. Joelle, anything on your list that we didn't get to?
I mean, there's always a long list, right?
Well,
But
yeah, of course you do.
I would say one takeaway maybe, or feedback, especially, I'm focused a lot on the shop side, right? Sometimes we'll hear and shops figuring out like, okay, everyone wants that experienced tech, right? But hey, I'll take a lower level, a B level instead of an A. Or we'll hear I'll take a GST or a C level tech and we'll train them up. Make sure like you're really serious about training that person up. Like you could say it, but once they're in there, or maybe you're a Euro shop, you're going to waive the Euro experience to get somebody in there because you're willing to train them in Euro. Whatever the situation is, if you're truly not, you're affecting that other person who maybe relocated across the country, who maybe just took a leap of faith in you because there was that training opportunity and chance to grow. And if that doesn't happen after a week or two, I mean, they're back looking for another job. So I would just really look in the mirror, look at the team, look at what you're able to do from a training standpoint. From, we all want the plug and play, but in order for this industry to continue thriving and growing, like, we have to train these younger adults or even older people, right? No matter what the age is, like,
Yep.
experienced or
Yep.
not experienced, like, we need to continue training these boys and girls and guys and ladies up. So again, nothing earth shattering there, but there's a ton, and we're continuing to learn every single day. And like you said, we're not there. There's ghosting. We experience the same things that shops experience when they're recruiting themselves. We're not going to get them all right, but we've placed over 200 candidates, over, was it 10 million dollars in salaries, I mean, in 14 months. So it feels really good. Shannon's one of our recruiters, and we have a Slack channel, and it goes back to something you were saying earlier. Like, we have an amazing team that every time we make a placement, and like we talk about, we're changing lives, right, on both sides of it. So it really is rewarding. Again, been in this industry my whole career, and it's just a different spin on working with people.
Formerly from Buffalo, Joelle.
Go Bills, baby.
All right, just checking to see if you had that
Oh
inside
yeah.
of you. Very good. Well, it looks like Promotive is on fire. GoPromotive.com. Boy, Lisa Coyle, Joelle Pollock, thank you so much for being here. I have an idea for your future episode. The whole relocation thing, you just mentioned that. Why not? Why not think about just coming on and talking about the possibility? Well, I don't want to spend the money, but I found a really great candidate. People are willing to move today. Up north, they want to go south. They want it to be a little warmer. They're moving from high tax states. Why not? I'm sure you have a million things to say about that relocation thing. And I think it would be important that one day we cover it. And finally, to your point about training, if you're not a perpetual student in every aspect, from leadership and culture to all the great technology that we have on our vehicle today, you're not going to make it. I mean, period,
Yep.
case closed, done.
Yep.
And you have to pay for it for your people and yourself.
Yep. And look outside of just industry training, I would say too, Carm. Like, there's so much training. Oh, it could be, I'm just going to say Tony Robbins, right? Like, where you just motivate people to be better individuals, better parents, better spouses, right? Like, there's a lot of training out there that is not just automotive, and that is development in people too. Of course, I agree and understand with everything you guys said too.
Totally agree. Thank you, Lisa, Joelle. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carm.
All right.
We'll see ya.